Hey everybody, thanks again for joining Tankers Fantasy Football here. We're going to recap what happened week 3, and then we're going to take a look forward at week 4. And first, we're going to hit you on some injuries and how they might affect your rosters this upcoming week here.
We gotta talk about them injured people, always do.
Going to lead it off, Shane Vereen. I mean, the guy's more than likely out for the whole year. And even with Shane Vereen out, I mean, you still got Jennings pretty banged up. We might see a little Paul Perkins touching the ball.
And Paul Perkins might actually get to touch some footballs out there. He was on my sleeper list to start the season. If you can get him on the waivers somehow, if he's still out there in your team's waivers, and he probably should be, I mean, if you can get him on the cheap, he's a wait and hold, because, I mean, there's no reason to think that he can't get in there and take over this backfield within 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, he really could. I mean, Rashad Jennings...
He's averaging like 1 yard a carry.
I mean, I like Rashad Jennings coming in, but now he's talking about Rashad Jennings playing with a cast. Talking about Rashad Jennings playing with a cast on his hand, and then, I mean, Shane Vereen out for the year. I mean, they got his Darkwa left, right? That's the only other guy we're talking about here. And I mean, Paul Perkins, I think, is the most talented back they have on this roster. I really do.
Another guy we're going to touch on, Eli Rogers. They're saying he's going to be very questionable. And with Eli Rogers banged up and Marquise Wheaton obviously not back to the form he ended with last season, I think Sammy Coates can get a big bump this week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Marcus Wheaton is fresh off the shelf out there dropping 3 balls, including a wide-open touchdown. I mean, Eli Rogers banged up. I mean, they haven't been very productive. I mean, Sammy Coates has been the most productive out of them all since week 2 and week 3. I mean, he's one catching those 40, 50-yard bombers. He hasn't turned any of those into a touchdown. But if he can somehow start getting like 6 or 7 targets a game and turn one of them bombers into a touchdown for you, I mean, if you're on the ropes thinking about like what I should do with like my flex and I got some dudes banged up, I mean, Sammy Coates, if he's on your waivers, he could be a very sexy like second flex play this week and moving forward. If he can take this wide receiver 2 spot and just run with it, he really could be.
They've shown consistency that they try and get him the ball deep every game. He gets a few shots deep every game. I think he's got like a 35 to 40 yard average right now for receptions. If he could just connect on one of those deep balls for a touchdown, that makes your week in that flex position. It does.
I mean, if he starts running some intermediate routes or they somehow start giving him them wide receiver screens like they used to give a little bit to Martavis Bryant, I mean, if he starts getting 6 or 7 targets a week, this guy could turn into a sexy flex play for you in this high-caliber offense. He really could.
All right, a running back coming who might be coming back. They're saying there's a chance that Jamal Charles is, but I'm just not buying it yet. Andy Reid says another week might do him some good, and I don't think there's going to be any rush to get him back.
They've been saying it's this week, and they're saying it's the next week, and they're saying it's the week after that. And I mean, I know I went out there and said if he does play last week, he's going to get 8 to 10 touches, but I'm lowering that number this week. I'm not even certain he does suit up this week, but if he does, I'm saying 5 to 8 touches. I really do. I'm tempering expectations to the max. I think it might be if he does play, they might just kind of be like a feeling him out in live action situation because I have no hopes that he's going to go out there and assume his role.
If he's active this week, you have to sit him. You do. Even if you feel like you're on the ropes and you desperately need him in your lineup, I still think you pick up a guy off of waivers over him. I think he's going to see, if he goes, which I really don't think he's going to get, 5 to 8 touches, I think,
think his ceiling is 10 at the absolute most. Another running back we're going to go with the Bears now. We're going to go with the Bears, Jeremy Langford, and we sat here and we told you to bench Jeremy Langford last week. We said it's time for the Bears to maybe see what Jordan Howard has to offer. And now the Bears are forced to see what Jordan Howard has to offer because Langford's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks.
I think Howard can very, very easily take this workhorse role. He was kind of my sleeper in this backfield before the season started. I thought he had the best talent out of all the guys. And I know the Bears' offense is going to be very bad. But
we're talking maybe 1 in 15 Chicago Bears. I mean, we might steal that 0 and 16 back from the Lions. We really might. Oh my goodness, Bears. I mean, Jordan Howard, I think, is our most talented back, and our offensive line is terrible. And if you're really hurting out there at RB2, like you've been dealing with a lot of these injuries that have been striking these running backs these last couple weeks, I mean, a guy like Jordan Howard, if he's on your waivers, I mean, I think you can get him for cheap, and you could plug and play him and say he's going to get you 10 to 12 points. I really do believe he's going to get you 10 to 12 points this week.
I think so too. I think he's got a decent floor, just because I truly believe with Hoyer in the lineup, if Cutler's not going to go, you obviously saw that he does not feel comfortable stretching the field. And, I mean, Alshon Jeffrey probably had the least amount of targets compared to the other receivers possibly he's ever had in his career in a game. So I think there's going to be a lot of dump-offs, a lot of short intermediate routes, and Hoyer could find him for solid 5-6 catches.
Oh, yeah. Another last injury we got to talk about is Antonio Gates, talking about he's probably going to miss another week. And I'm not saying there's going to be another tight end you should pick up and play here, but I think Tyrell Williams might get a little uptick in red zone targets going forward. I mean, I know he didn't really do that well for you last week, but Tyrell Williams, I mean, I think he's the number 2 option in this passing game with Keenan Allen and Antonio Gates being out. I think in the red zone, he is the go-to guy because he is a big hoss out there.
He's a huge target out there. Philip loves the big boys down in the red zone.
He's a big hoss, and I mean, I don't think he's available any waivers anymore. But if you've been holding and waiting, I think playing against them so bad New Orleans Saints this week, I think Tyrell Williams is an all systems go flex play. I really do.
All right.
We're going to talk about some dudes that have gone a little soft on you. Maybe, had some high weeks 1, week 2, and then they just kind of lost their edge out there and went a little flaccid. We're going to talk about some flaccid guys. We're going to lead it off with Stephon Diggs. I know I'm not saying Stephon Diggs is going to be bad for you. I mean, if he only went out there and went 4 for 40 last week, but I mean, he had very productive weeks 1 and weeks 2, and I think he's the only real option in this passing game. So
he really is. I don't think his targets are going to go anywhere. Kyle Rudolph apparently plays football again and is a legitimate fantasy tight end now, apparently. But at the receiving core, there's really not another guy that I see stealing touches away from Diggs.
I mean, he played against that tough Carolina Panthers defense in Carolina, and they really leaned on that defense to kind of control that game last week. I mean, their defense went out there and got a safety. They're beating Cam Newton up all game, and they didn't really have to force the ball down the field in that second half. They just kind of, milk the clock and hope to hold on to a victory, and they did. And those Vikings defense, I mean, we're going to be talking about the best defense in football here, people. I mean, move over Denver Broncos. We're talking about the purple people eating queens out there just running the show. It's unbelievable. It's Barney Land. They're just mowing people. It's insane.
8 sacks and picked them off 3 times.
Incredible. Against a guy like Cam Newton going out there and just pushing him down 8 times and picking him off 3 times. I mean, that's so good, Vikings. I wish the Bears had this defense. I mean, this is a stout defense. I mean, you run out Sam Bradford and Jared McKinnon and Matt Asiata, and you're still beating the Carolina Panthers at home. You know why? Because your defense. It's not because those dudes I just talked about. That's for sure.
It wasn't even close either.
Another guy back down there, the power of the urn. The power of the urn has failed Mike Wallace. Let you down. You were thinking, he's got 3 touchdowns the first 2 weeks, and he's playing them Jaguars, and he went out there and he dropped 3 for 34 for you. And, I told you should have sold high on Mike Wallace last week. I'm not saying he's going to turn into a turd sandwich again.
He might.
But he very well could. I mean, we're talking about Mike Wallace here. I mean, he's 1 foot in the grave. I mean, 3 and 34. I mean, we might be talking about the rest of your average for Mike Wallace. I mean, he only had 4 for 40 the week before. He just happened to get in the end zone twice. We got another guy. We're going to go shift the gears. The running backs. Isaiah Crowell. I mean, this guy's kind of touchdown dependent. I mean, he went out there and got you 15 carries for 79 yards, and that's still over 5 yards a carry. I mean, that's still very good. But he is not looking to catch you balls.
No. Like we said, he's not getting receptions, and even though he had very good average, 79 yards, only getting you 7.9 fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean,
if he's not getting the end zone, you can see some very bad weeks from Crowell.
Oh, if he's not getting the end zone, you can almost write him down for under 10 fantasy points. You really can. I mean, that's not very sexy. If you don't have this Browns offense is not. I mean, they're running through Terrell Pryor out there. Like, he's the one rushing for touchdowns somehow. I mean,
He's doing everything.
That's a heartbreaking you if you're Isaiah Crowell and Terrell Pryor runs into the end zone. That was your only hope and prayer. I mean, he just stole it from you. It's like Cam Newton stealing J Stu's love for the last few years. I mean, that's what I think it's going to be. As long as they got to deal with no Josh McCown and no RG3, I think it's going to be the Terrell Pryor show.
Another running back, a guy I'm not too worried about, but he only got you 5.1, and, you know, that hurt. But I like C.J. Anderson bouncing back this week against the Bucs.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their down weeks out there. I mean, there's no reason to believe that C.J. Anderson isn't going to continue to be your sexy boy, especially going down into Tampa against the Buccaneers, who just vomited up 37 points to a Rams team who hadn't even found the end zone before they went to Tampa.
It's crazy, but, C.J. Anderson, it could be... You know his workload is going to be there. It could be the C.J. Anderson show again this week. It really could.
I mean, the Buccaneers are just bleeding points. They've given up points to the Falcons week 1. They got to put up 40 points against the Cardinals week 2. Gave up 37 points to the Los Angeles Rams. Case Keenum's throwing touchdowns to Brian Quick. What does that even mean? That means the Bucs defense is terrible.
Tavon Austin had like a 50-yard touchdown.
Oh, that means your defense is terrible. You're letting the likes of Case Keenum to Brian Quick throw touchdowns at you. And it was a pretty long touchdown, too, what's going on against their Bucs. I think everything is all systems go against the Bucs for the rest of the year.
Oh,
if you got players playing against the Bucs, it's all systems go.
If you got that NFC South, really, if you're playing against Atlanta, New Orleans, or Tampa Bay, I don't care who you play.
Yeah. And besides the Panthers, that division has, like, no defense. They're like junior college defenses out there. It ain't nothing. They're the Skyhawks, the Sauk Valley.
The Sauk Valley Suckcats.
If the Sauk Valley had a football team, it'd look a lot like the Saints in the Buccaneers defense.
All right, we're gonna hit you on a couple receivers here before we get to some good guys. Brandon Cooks, he's letting you down out there. He really did.
I mean, we had him going into Monday night needing, 11 points out of him to get the W, and he went out there and laid a 3.9, didn't even touch the ball in the second half. I mean, oh my goodness, Brandon Cooks. I mean, I'm not really afraid that this is going to be a trend, but he really just laid an egg for you Monday night.
It's like he wasn't even playing, but yeah, he was on the field the entire time.
I think he had one target all second half, and it was just like thrown behind him a little bit. And my goodness, Brandon Cooks. I mean, the rest of the Jacoby Fleener's out there lighting up the world, and you gave me 3.9 fantasy points? Oh, baby.
Who would have thought that you would have said, these teams are going to combine for, 70, 80 points.
And Brandon Cooks was going to catch...
And Brandon Cooks and Julio Jones combine for less than 6 points.
Complete madness, people. But that's what we live in the world of football.
That's reality.
We got another guy that didn't just come back down to earth. He plummeted back down to earth, flying through the atmosphere and crashed into the ocean. We're talking about Kelvin Benjamin, who had one target and scored you 0 fantasy points last week. I'm afraid.
We've seen the floor that he has been able to put up his rookie year, and the floor came back.
I mean, we had weeks 1 and 2. I'm still kind of in love with the guy, but my goodness, I'm afraid I know people don't have the personnel like the Vikings do on defense, but they just totally gave him a blueprint on what to do against Kelvin Benjamin, holding him to nothing. Holding him to nothing out there after what he did weeks 1 and week 2. That is an accomplishment, Vikings. They just gave the whole league a blueprint on what to try to do. I'm not saying they're going to be able to execute like the Vikings did, but they're going to try.
And you've shown that Cam Newton has not been able to get it going if Kelvin Benjamin's not getting it going.
Oh, man. I know Kelvin Benjamin probably isn't going to score 0 again for you for the rest of the year. But that just made you feel hauntingly like that in the back of your mind, like that could happen. Like, oh my goodness.
We've talked about the offense running through Greg Olsen, but this year, the offense might be running through Benjamin. We've seen how bad they were this week with Benjamin putting up 0.
The defense started latching onto that, and he starts getting double on every play. I don't know. I have to temper expectations out there. I know he's going to be still a heavy red zone target. But I just don't know if he's going to do what he did weeks 1 and week 2 for you very many times. If people take this Viking blueprint and run with it, I'm just afraid. I really am. We're going to get to some guys that you're feeling good about,
Let's
you know?
get some hot action.
The guys that really haven't been really, I mean, maybe a couple of them had been doing it for you weeks 1 and weeks 2, but guys that you were kind of worried about coming into week 3 that just showed you the sexy boy. They just showed up for you so big. We're going to lead it off with Doug Baldwin.
A lot of people very scared putting him in, dealing with back spasms and all the other stuff. But if you stuck with this guy, I mean, he returned value. And did he ever dropping 30 points?
Dropping a 30 burger out there. Week 1, he went out there and get you 24, and you're like, yeah, Dougie, you could be my Doug, you know? You could be my Doug. And, you know, he's the same guy who you saw him in 2015. They went out there week 2, put up like, what, a 6 burger for you, talking about back spasms, talking about knee soreness, and you're like, oh, no, Doug. Oh, no. But then he went out there and dropped 8 for 160 and a touchdown out there, and oh baby, you're back on that map. You're feeling, oh my Doug. I knew you could be my Doug. I knew you could be my Doug, and I think it's all systems go. I think if you got Doug Martin like your wide receiver 3 for the rest of the year, especially if Russell Wilson does play, I think he's your boy. I think he's sexy boy material out there. I mean, he's clearly the number 1 target on this offense.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett is just not doing anything close to what we expected. What do you want,
Taters? You get out of here, Taters. Doing
all right. A guy who just absolutely lost his mind, blowing up out there. And the Marvin Jones train is riding so high and smooth right now.
I mean, he went out there and did good for you. Oh, yeah, Taters.
You love him.
You know Marvin Jones, Taters. I mean, he went out there and got you, weeks 1 and week 2, went out there and got you respectable points. And then last week, he just lost his mind out there. I mean, he hadn't touched the end zone before last week. Went out there 200 yards and 2 touchdowns up in the name. Oh, I know, Taters. It's hot. Marvin Jones is a hot take right now.
I think he's the number 1 receiver right now in fantasy points.
Yeah, I really do. He is off the chain. 38 points last week. All systems go. I mean, if you got Marvin Jones in your wide receiver 2 or somehow in your wide receiver 3 hole, I mean, you're feeling hot and bothered about it. I mean, you're on the map. I mean, oh my goodness,
you're chubbing out.
You gotta be chubbing out there rocking a semi. You got Marvin Jones in your wide receiver 3 hole, and he's on the level, people. I mean, my goodness, sexy boy deluxe. And we're into another guy who turned another 30-point week for you out there. I mean, he had T.Y. Hilton, B-O-O-T-Y. He had 13.9 out there, and then he had 8.1 for you week 2, and you're feeling kind of lonely about it, feeling kind of sad.
But the thing to look forward to is his targets have been there. They really have.
He's had 12 targets week 1, 11 week 2, and then another 11 week 3, and he turned that 11 in week 3 into 31.4 fantasy points, and you should be feeling good about it. I mean, these targets are not going anywhere. I mean, especially with Moncrief on the shelf, he is totally the go-to guy in that passing game. I mean, for the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're talking about Moncrief be out. I mean, watch out for T.Y. Hilton. I mean, he is off the chain, people. I mean, if he's in there and you're feeling good about him again. You're feeling down in the dumps about that 8.1. I mean, that 13.9 is solid, but that 8.1 got you a little bad taste in your mouth. But 31.4, baby.
I mean, weeks 1 and 2. I mean, I was scared for this guy. I really was. I thought his role was just diminishing. I thought Moncrief was kind of becoming that possession guy, and Philip Dorsett was kind of becoming that long deep threat, and T.Y. was just kind of left out there in the middle. But if you bought low on this guy somehow, this guy can be a serious wide receiver 2 out there. Borderline wide receiver 1 these next few weeks that Moncrief is out.
He's kind of like a wide receiver 1 upside and like a wide receiver 1 ceiling, and then like a wide receiver 3 floor in my eyes with Moncrief out. But that's still good. I mean, he's deep balling out there, and he's still getting double-digit targets every week so far. I mean, he's your boy. If he keeps getting those targets, I don't think there's any way to have any feel bad moments about this guy until at least Moncrief starts coming back and feeling good.
And in London against Jacksonville this week, so I think all systems go there.
All systems go. We got a wide receiver duo here, and these guys weren't doing dirt filth for you, Emmanuel Sanders and D-Train. They weren't doing that bad for you. But, oh, baby, did they blow it up against that Bengals D who had just getting done shutting down Antonio Brown week 2. Bengals D shut down Antonio Brown, and then Trevor Siemian went out there and just slung the rock all over him. The game was even in Cincinnati, people. I mean, Manuel Sanders and D-Train both went out there and got you 20-plus fantasy points last week in PPR. I mean, that's sexy training.
Sanders, a couple touchdowns. D-Train apparently still can catch bombs.
I mean, the hip thing, I think, is in the rearview mirror. I was a little bit worried about it. Week 1, they're talking about second opinions. But I think that hip thing is in the rearview mirror, and as all systems go to Demaryius Thomas for the rest of the season, I'm feeling really, really good about it. I really am. I mean, if Trevor Siemian continues to take these steps forward, I mean, my goodness. I mean, the ghost of Peyton Manning and Osweiler last year, I mean, Trevor Siemian, there's no reason to believe that Trevor Siemian can't produce better than the ghost of Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler.
Demaryius has shown that he has probably the best floor of any wide receiver out there. I mean, you talk about a bad down year for him last year with Noodle Arm throwing it. He still got you easily the century mark in catches and over 1,000 yards.
I mean, he was just down in touchdowns a little bit, but in PPR, I mean, those 100 catches are saving your life out there.
They were.
I think if D-Train's hips in the rearview mirror and Siemian keeps playing like he is, I mean, I think you can write D-Train down for a top 12 finish in PPR. I really do. Another guy, I know we talked about Devontae Parker after his week 200-yard game, but he went out there and did another double-digit 14-point finish with a touchdown.
Had a nice little touchdown. I think it was opening drive.
Yeah, first touchdown of the game. Went out there and put it in the end zone for you. I mean, back-to-back games over 14 points. If you're talking about Devontae Parker in your flex position, I'm all systems go on it.
Even some people, if you can get him in your first or even second flex, I mean, that's crazy running him out there.
I'm in love with it. I think he might be your guy. I mean, you know Landry's out there target monster and in there in the intermediate routes. But if Devontae Parker's going to be that red zone threat, and I think he can be, and if he can be that deep ball threat, which I think he already is, I mean, he can return you very solid wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 numbers. I really, truly believe.
All right, now I got a guy who just lost his mind out there.
Lost it. Colby Fleener is back to
we've been waiting on all season.
Oh, man, from the depths of the sea, back to the mic. Colby Fleener.
Finally got it going. It just needed a little Monday night love. That's all I needed.
He just needed the bright lights, the big stage, the nation watching him on the telly. That's all he needed, baby. I mean, he only had 3 catches for 12 yards coming in, and this guy lost his mind out there with Willie Snead on the shelf. And I mean, if Willie Snead continues to be on the shelf, I think it's all systems go. He went out there, got 7 for $109 and a TD out there. I mean, if Willie Snead continues to be on the shelf, and even if he comes back, I mean, I don't think he's going to drop 7 for $109 and a TD every game. But if he can somehow be in between of desolation, dirt road garbage, and sexy boy deluxe like he was on Monday night, I mean, that's pretty good for you, especially since how bad you were feeling about him coming out of week 2.
Hitting another tight end here, Jimmy Graham posting his second 100-yard game in a Seahawks uni.
He hadn't gotten a 100-yard game since week 5 against those Panthers last year when he dropped 140 on them. But I mean, people thought he was dead. I mean, you might have been able to even sneak him off of waiver wires after week 2. I mean, the guy hadn't done much. Then he went out there and I mean, he only had 4 balls for 53 yards in weeks 1 and 2 combined. He went out there and got you 6 for 100 and a touchdown. And I'm not saying he's, expect the Jimmy Graham of old, but I mean, if he can go out there and produce like that and keep on the field, I mean, you could be talking about top 10 tight end Jimmy Graham. If you were able to get this bum off the waiver or draft him late like he was going, I mean, I'm feeling good about it, especially with some of these injuries we've been dealing at tight ends these first few weeks.
I mean, even at worst, a bye week filler for the tight end position. Before, he's borderline waiver wire, but you can hang on to him as your backup tight end now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if you want to sell high, I mean, this might be a time to even sell high if somebody's like, oh, boy, Jimmy's back. I mean, I'd sell him to that guy. I mean, if some guy's like, oh, boy, Jimmy's back, I mean, I'd sell him high right now. I really would. And we're going to go to another Seahawk. We're going to talk about Christine Michael. Went out there and got you over 5 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, I know the defense matchup definitely favored him. And with Rawls being out, I mean, but we've said he looked good in preseason. Who knows? This could be a jump start that he needed, or it could be his swan song.
Well, it could be a swan song, but I mean, until Thomas Rawls comes back, I think you can write this guy down in your RB2 spot. I really do. I mean, he might be all systems go RB2 until at least Rawls comes back. If he keeps this going, I mean, Thomas Rawls who? I mean, really? I mean, how are they going to start giving the ball back to Thomas Rawls? This guy can keep busting off 5 yards of carry.
I mean, it's not like they would feel bad giving Rawls the seat on the bench. It's not like they paid a lot for him. He was undrafted.
Yeah, I mean, he's nobody. He's not a guy like they're paying a lot of money that they feel like they have to put him out there. I mean, Christine Michael could take this job and run it, and if he does, and we could be talking about very solid RB2 numbers, especially where you were able to get him in drafts. I mean, that's RB2, RB3 number. I mean, RB2, RB3, I mean, that's sexy train. It really is.
All right, I think we need to hit another duo here. Both running backs for Atlanta.
Oh,
just
my
going
God. I mean, we're
off.
talking about the community college defense of the New Orleans Saints, but, I mean, my goodness, they totaled almost 300 yards combined, and a combined 4 touchdowns. Devontae Freeman had 207 total yards. I mean, Devontae Freeman, I mean, I'm kind of a hater, and I don't know if this is like a thing to be seen for the future, but, I mean, you got to be feeling pretty good about Devontae Freeman after what you just saw on Monday Night Football.
I mean, both backs pretty much had 30 or more, which is just crazy. It really is.
Oh, they
4
were just
touchdowns
running
combined.
it, catching it down their throat all night long. They really were. It was embarrassing, Saints. Oh, my goodness. I mean, Freeman and Coleman are playing the Panthers this week, so temper expectations a little bit out there. But I think, you can definitely write Freeman back into that RB2 spot. I think Coleman has solidified himself as your RB2 so far.
Oh, yeah. They've given him them goal line touches. Like we said, 3 rushing touchdowns.
Coleman scored like 15, and like 29 for you the first 3 weeks. I mean, he's been solid.
Right now, I think he's top 4 or 5 running back in fantasy.
I'm all systems go on Coleman. I know Freeman was kind of getting a little more touches than him last night, but if you're talking about goal line back, and Tevin Coleman still catching passes and getting goal line work. I mean, goal line backs usually don't catch passes. I mean, if he's doing both those things, I mean, I think both these running backs might be solid RB2s the rest of the way. I really do. I don't even really like Devontae Freeman. But if we could keep it going, I mean, hell.
And he's playing in the NFC South, so you're going to have some very, very bad defenses twice a year.
You get some cream puff matchups out there going against the Bucs, who we talked about earlier in the podcast. They're just, oh, God, Phil, they're another community college defense like the Saints. And I mean, they got the Bucs and the Saints playing twice a year. I mean, that's pretty sexy. That's all systems go in those matchups, at least. We got another running back. I mean, LaShawn McCoy went out there, and he's been good for you. 17 and 13 in PPR the first 2 weeks. But my goodness,
I sat him in one of these leagues just because of the matchup, but
I mean, my goodness, I started him in one of my leagues, and he looked like the Sean McCoy of old. I mean, his second touchdown when he did this little weasel duck move and sneaked in there, I don't even know how it happened. Like, he looked spry out there. He looked like he was getting loose, making people miss. He looked like the Sean McCoy we saw 3-4 years ago. And against the Cardinals D, was a pretty good defense. I mean, this guy's put up 17, 13, and now 24 points last week. This is your boy, people. If you got him in the 3rd round, like we were saying,
I think he's a legitimate RB1 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you got him in that 3rd round, like we were talking about before the season, he is returning you epic value. If you went wide receiver, LaShawn McCoy, I mean, returning you value out there, and a team playing for a team that loves to run the football like the Buffalo Bills. I don't think this is necessarily going anywhere.
A back who finally found his way in the end zone.
Got in there, he did.
Todd Gurley, he got in twice, but his yards per carry just still is not there.
Still at 3.1 on the game. He's still under 3 yards per carry on the season. He had another catch in this game, but it was for another negative 5 yards. I mean, the guy has 1 catch in week 2 for 19 yards, but he has 3 catches on the season for 9 yards. So, I mean, that's not very good. He's not helping you in PPR realms at all. And, I mean, if he's not getting them 1-yard plunges into the end zone, he's doing dirt road truckers things again for you weeks 3. I mean, he got lucky out there falling into those 2 1-yard plunges. I mean, 3.1 yards a carry. I mean, that is not very good. He has under 3 for the season.
He said he sees them 12 guys on defense there.
We joked about it last week. They're going to put 12 men in the box.
Get
and
the
Gurley
coach
out there
out there.
says he thinks he's out there playing. Gurley out there says he thinks there's 12 men on the box too. So, I don't know. I mean, I know you got to start this guy, but I am not, in any means saying he's back. Watch out. I don't think that's the score whatsoever. Another guy. Oh, my goodness. If you got this is belligerent. I mean, Terrell Pryor, what is happening out there? Guy had 14 targets last week for 8 receptions for 144 yards, and he also ran the ball 4 times for 21 yards and a touchdown. And then this guy threw the ball 5 times, completed 3 of them for another 35 yards. I mean, this is a jack of all trades if I haven't seen one. I mean, all he's got left to do is to throw it to himself. I mean, if he throws it to himself, we're talking about holy grail here, people. We're talking about double touchdowns. I mean, that's the chance. I mean, he threw it and he caught it. I mean, that's 2 touchdowns, people. It really is.
Like a 40-point play out
I mean,
there.
how far away are we from that from being the score here? I mean, he is the entire Browns offense. They're living and dying. He's going to be Mr. Perfect out there. Brown down. And he's just going to chuck it up, huck it, chuck it. And he's, next thing you know, he's going to be running slow-mo downfield, catching his own touchdown pass. It's going to be out of control. I'm in love with it. I know that's not happening, and that's pipe dream madness, and I'm talking out of my ass. But I mean, he is gonna be
he's the only guy.
But he is.
He is. He's the only one.
I mean,
Coleman on a broken hand. What is happening?
I mean, this guy. I mean, with his passes that he threw, this guy with the 14 targets, the 5 passes, and what? We're talking about 4 rushes? I mean, my goodness, we're talking about 23 times this guy had a chance to touch the ball and make plays with it. You're talking about a guy you can pencil in your wide receiver 4 spot who has the opportunity to touch the ball and do things with it 23 times a game? That's damn right incredible. It really is. Oh, we can get looking up some matchups this week. Getting into them good matchups, them bad matchups.
Take a gander here.
Let's get into them matchups. All right, get him up there, Bear. Get him up there, Bear. Oh, I know, I'm always losing my stuff.
There
Here we go. Here we go. All right, we're going to lead off with the matchup of the week.
I think we talked about Melvin Gordon putting up a potential top 5 finish last week. I almost think you can cement this guy as a top 5 performance this year. Melvin Gordon riding high, and he's got that Saints D that we so talked about that just Tevin Coleman and Freeman lit up for over 60 points combined.
Oh my goodness, just ripped out harvest their souls. Just ripped their souls from their body like Shang Tsung. It was ridiculous out there. And I mean, I know Melvin Gordon kind of slacking that yards per carry last week against the Colts, but I mean, if his usage is anything to see for the future, I mean, against these Saints, it's going to be ridiculous, people. The guy caught 4 of his 7 targets, so he's catching them footballs. He's getting that goal line work. I mean, Melvin Gordon against the Saints, if he touches the ball 20 times, this could be a bloodbath out there. It really could. We could be talking about 150-yard, 2-touchdown Melvin Gordon. This could be easily the best game of his career this week in San Diego against that, oh my goodness, New Orleans Saint abysmal. Community college level defense. It is bad. They're just going to run it down their throat. I mean, you know they're going to watch that Falcon tape and be like, well, the Falcons running backs almost totaled 300 yards and combined 4 touchdowns against these dirt bums. So we should probably run Melvin Gordon straight up down their throat, and I think it's going to work all day long. We got another running back with a pretty sexy matchup with Ezekiel Elliott going into San Francisco to play the 49ers.
And if there's any cold front 7 out there, it's got to be the Niners. It has to be. They're just getting torched from the running back position.
I mean, Fozzie Whitaker went out there, and Jay Stu went down week 2. Fozzie Whitaker went out there and dropped 16 carries for over 100 yards on him. Then Christine Michael went out there and dropped 100 yards. Had the game of his career with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns against him last week. I think it's Elliott, and I know you watched Lance Dunbar, you watched Alfred Morris, and you even watched Dak Prescott steal goal line carries from your boy. But I'm saying that's a thing. I mean, I don't think that's going to be a thing to continue. I mean, Alfred Morris might do it, but those other 2 dudes, that's completely insanity. I mean, how can you risk a guy like Dak Prescott's health when Romo's already on the shelf? That's stupid. And I mean, Lance Dunbar just happened to get that goal line carry because he was on there for 3rd down, and they somehow left him on there for a shotgun draw play to sneak him in the end zone, which is gross. I was completely upset by that. But Ezekiel Elliott this week against the Niners, I mean, the guy totaled 160 yards?
He had 30 carries. 30 carries for 140 yards last week.
I don't think there's any way he doesn't find the end zone this week against the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, I think you can write him down for over 100 yards and a touchdown this week against those 49ers. I really do. They're vomiting up points to Fozzie Whitaker out there. I mean, my God. Fozzie Whitaker. That's ridiculous. We're going to go with Allen Robinson against the Colts, and I really like it. I know Vontae Davis is back, but I mean, Allen Robinson came back, showed us who was a man beast again last week, getting
Got
them
the
two
two
touchdowns.
touchdowns.
I know London game, and I don't really like the whole overseas action. But I mean, against this guy, I mean, all systems go this week for Allen Robinson against the Colts. I really do. I think he's going to go out there. I think it might even be a shootout in London out there with the Colts Jags. So I mean, the Allen twins, Allen Robinson mostly, could go out there and just blow it up. I think you can write him. I think it might be his first 100-yard game of the season, and I think you can give him another touchdown. I really do.
You rode him last week. I think you got to ride him again.
Oh, ride him high. You got to ride him.
And you know what's crazy is we're talking about these receivers. This receiver has came out of nowhere. We're going to kind of talk about the Redskins receivers. But Jamison Crowder apparently is a guy that you need to have in your lineup.
That's insanity. I mean,
It's
this
crazy.
is insane. This guy was like, he wasn't even included in a top 300 overall player list. And this guy is coming out. He's getting targets. He's getting work. It's insane. This whole Redskins.
And a long touchdown.
I mean, this whole Redskins group. I mean, if you got Redskins receivers out there playing against the Browns this week, it's good news for you. Because the Browns just gave up a huge game to Landry, giving up another good game to Devontae Parker. I think it's all systems go for these Redskins receivers this week. I mean, if Djax has been looking fairly solid, I mean, and Djax and Reed, I know Reed's playing, you're playing Jordan Reed no matter what. I mean, that's just insanity. But guys like Jamison Crowder from the depths of the sea.
I mean, if you need some help in that second flex or whatever, I mean, Crowder, he could do it for you.
Yeah, it's gross. I don't even know how it's happening, but it is. And another guy, you know, like with Garrett Blunt, I know he's been your boy out there, but he's got another good matchup against those Buffalo Bills in New England. And I know they're just gonna be trying to salt this game away, and even not even that, they might just try to run the ball down their throat every play because Tom Brady's coming back next week.
Especially with this quarterback situation, who knows who's gonna play? They're just gonna run the ball with the guy who's leading the league in rushing yards.
I mean, they're just holding. I mean, no Tom Brady. They're just trying to go 4-0 without Tom Brady and feel really goddamn good about themselves.
How bad does that hurt Roger Goodell? I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's Tom Brady's out there showing you bare ass, out there sunbathing in Italy, and just, I bet you he paid that guy to take those pictures and to send them in so Roger Goodell could just see it. Oh, just bathing it, baby. Yeah, no, just talk about one more matchup. We're talking about Lions players against the Desolation Road Chicago Bears.
Any of them.
And I'm kind of, I mean, Dwayne Washington, even if the Lions get a lead and they're looking to slam that ball up the middle against the Chicago Bears, it's going to work. So, I mean, Dwayne Washington could be looking into a sexy boy second half. I mean, somehow, some way, if it's come down to you having to start Dwayne Washington in an RB slot, I mean, you might be seeing some carries out there in the second half against the Chicago Bears. You really could. And like we said, they vomited up touchdowns. Last week, they gave 3 rushing touchdowns away, and Ezekiel Elliott totaled 160 yards on them. I mean, my goodness, Bears. We're moving on to them temper expectations, bros, this week. Playing against some solid defenses. I'm going to lead it off with Lamar Miller. Now, Lamar Miller is yet to find the end zone, and this week he plays against them Tennessee Titans, who have allowed the second fewest fantasy points to running backs thus far this year.
Lamar Miller has shown that he has an excellent floor, about as good of a floor as anyone on a weekly basis. But I still think he's going to be around that 10 to 15 point mark. I just can't see him getting a touchdown this week. The Titans very stiff.
I mean, the only reason why his floor is so high is because his incredible volume of touches. I mean, he hasn't had, I don't remember any explosive plays had this year.
No, he's only averaging probably 3.5 yards.
Yeah, he's just grinding him out. I mean, he hasn't gotten loose once, not at all. And I mean, I'm kind of worried about Lamar Miller, but I know he's got that. Scored 14.7 points for you last week in a game where the Texans just got absolutely embarrassed up in New England, getting shut out, and he still somehow scratched and clawed his way to 14.7 points. But I think that might be his ceiling going forward until further notice. I mean, if this guy needs to start finding the end zone, he needs to start getting loose because this is looking pretty rough out there.
Yeah, Osweiler has to get it going. I think that's the main thing right now. Week 1 against the Bears, obviously it was a lot easier to do, getting Will Fuller and Hopkins going. But Brock Osweiler not looking good lately, and I feel like he's exposed.
I feel like he completely got exposed last week. And moving on to another, we're going against another Giants playing against that tough Vikings D. Those purple people eaters are back, people. They really are. And I mean, I'm thinking it even temper expectations on guys like Odell Beckham, and we saw what them Vikings did to Kelvin Benjamin last week. I mean, they are suffocating offenses, people. They really are. What?
Jets or Giants?
The Giants. Giants players against the Vikings D. That's what I was talking about, wasn't I? Yeah, I was. And it's just suffocating. I mean, Sterling Shepard has done good thus far, but I don't know. I think you might have to put him on the pine out there against the Vikings. I really do. It's crazy.
And even Le'Veon Bell coming back. First game back here. They're saying that to expect a lot of them this week. I just don't know how much I'm buying into that. You never can quite get the conditioning down for an NFL game. I still think he's going to get you, 15 carries or so, but I don't think he's going to go full-blown into that workhorse role quite yet.
I mean, you drafted him, you're starting him. I mean, that's the score, but I'm just saying watch out. He might not drop a 20 or 30 burger out there for his first time off the pine. But he might, it is Le'Veon Bell. Who knows? But another guy, Mike Evans, playing against that Denver D, who's third in the league versus receivers. I know you're probably going to run Mike Evans out no matter what, but just temper your expectations a little bit. I mean, don't expect him to be your sexy boy by any means this week out there against that stout, deep Denver secondary. And one more, we got all Jets players this week because, oh, baby, how bad did Ryan Fitzpatrick look? I mean, he threw 6 picks. I mean, I used to play Madden years. I don't play Madden very much anymore. But the computer used to pull their starting quarterback if he threw 5 picks against you. And I mean, my goodness, out there throwing 6, that's legendary. Every time, it's like the red zone kept breaking to the Jets game, be like, why? They keep showing us these picks for? And it was like, no. Those are different, separate picks. And he's just thrown like 3 picks in the last 10 minutes. How is this even happening? But he did. It was crazy. That game ended with like a interception parade. It was ridiculous. It was like, oh, the Jets are back in the red zone, some magical interception. It really was. All right, now we'll get one more thing to talk about. We're going to go into some shootouts of the week.
It's a couple games here that, if there's a player they're kind of on the fence about, who do I start over the other? I feel like if you got a guy in these games, he might give you that little boost to get him in the lineup. And we're starting off with the New Orleans Saints at the San Diego Chargers here. And I feel both very explosive offenses. And another one, we got the Panthers versus Falcons.
I mean, I know the Panthers D is pretty stout, but I'm just feeling this is a shootout. I mean, they're in the Dome, they're in the Georgia Dome down in Atlanta, and the Falcons' offense has been pretty stellar. Matt Ryan's actually looked fairly good the first 3 weeks, and that Falcon running game really went off the chain last week. But the Panthers' offense can also score points. I mean, it's not like that Falcon D is stopping anyone. And I think anybody that plays against the Saints is usually on deck for a shootout because the Saints defense can't stop anybody, and the Saints defense and the Saints offense can slang it. So I think anybody that plays the Saints is almost like that game's almost written down for 50, 60 points scored combined easy. I think you can easily go there. I mean, the Falcons Saints went almost 78 on Monday night, over 70. I mean, anything over 60 is a shootout, people. It is.
All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel here.
Oh, like and comment below. We like to answer them who do I start questions. Ooh, you gotta subscribe, people, because, would you subscribe to me? I'd subscribe to me. I'd subscribe to me hard.
Like us on Facebook. Follow us on the Twitter. We love the Twitter. It's
fun.
I
love the Twitter.
It's fun.
I told you that with Willie Snead out, expect Kobe Fleener and Michael Thomas to be more involved in that Saints offense, and oh, baby, was I right.
We're out there rooting for Tom Coughlin to come back.
Oh, bring us the Coughlin back to Jacksonville, baby. They need his presence. They just need to resurrect the old man.
Thanks a lot for watching. We'll catch you later.